So, welcome everybody to our fireside chat. I'm very excited today because we got a special guest. It's Jonas, CMO and co-founder of Reaktion, who joins us today straight from the Reaktion's headquarters in Copenhagen. Hi, Jonas, great to have you.
Hi, thanks a lot.
So, we're really grateful that we can spend the next hour or so with you and that you take time in your busy schedules to learn more about e-commerce and Google Shopping ads to become even greater online marketers. Before we start, I want to make sure that you all can hear me, that you can see me. So please drop a thumbs up in the comment section or post a comment if anything goes wrong. So today, Jonas and me will talk about advanced insights on how to win in e-commerce and in Google Shopping in 2024. This is highly relevant for anybody working with Google Shopping ads and e-commerce, irrespectively whether you're an online shop or an agency. And Jonas and me, we are also joined by David from Adstrong, who you cannot see or hear, but he'll take care of the comment and chat section. So if you have any comments, remarks, or questions, just drop them in LinkedIn chat, and David will make sure that they are handled, and he will also relay all questions to us. And with regard to questions that come up, please don't wait until the Q&A session starts in the end. Just drop your questions whenever they come up so that we can either take them straight away or that we have a couple of questions already collected when the Q&A session starts. So, without further ado, let's get started and take a look at today's agenda. So, first we'll start with a short introduction of Jonas and me, and then we'll start with a fireside chat where we'll pick two topics. How did the industry finish 2023? And with the industry, I mean like the e-commerce online marketing industry, and how to rise and shine in e-commerce in 2024. We'll begin by me picking, Jonas picking my brain, and I'll do my best to share insights that I get from our customers and our leads. This will be mostly about Google Shopping ads and CSS. And then I'll pick Jonas's brain and get his insights, and this will be mostly about profitability and tracking. And then we should have about 10 minutes left for Q&A. So, Jonas, it's great to have you. Please tell us a little bit about you and Reaktion.
Well, thanks a lot, Ingmar. Thank you for the invite. I feel very much honored. Yes, I'm
definitely.
Jonas, co-founder of Reaktion.com. I've always been an entrepreneur. 9 years ago, I started a company called Firstborn Capital, where we worked with 46 banks, generated close to 500,000 bank loan applications. We were fortunate to exit that one 3 years ago, and then we started Reaktion.com. Now we are working with 1,200 e-commerce companies and close to 150 agencies, mainly in the northern part of Europe. So Reaktion's short version is that we are a collaborative platform for generating the success for e-commerce businesses, and we are tailored towards agencies and e-commerce businesses, streamlining all the data, setting up the tracking, etc.
Cool.
That was the short version, yeah?
Awesome. Then I'll take over and talk a little bit about myself for anybody who doesn't know me yet. So I'm Ingmar. From background, I'm a computer scientist. I worked for McKinsey & Company for a couple of years as strategy consultant. But since 2008, I'm active as an internet entrepreneur. I founded a couple of startups, also sold some. And in particular, I founded roughly over 10 years ago, I founded one of the largest European price comparison networks. We were a pure SEA player. So back in the days, this was Google search ads. And we generated annually over 100 million in revenues for a couple of thousand shops across the world. And we had a monthly 7-digit SEA spend, so Google search ads back in the day. And I was personally involved in the legal process that led to the Google CSS program. And that was basically my start with the CSS environment. I founded adstrong roughly 5 years ago, and up until today, I have personally set up more than 100 white label CSSs for agencies and online shops. And adstrong, just very briefly about adstrong if you don't know. So we are one of the leading CSS providers in the world with over 7,000 merchant centers in our own ecosystem. But in particular, and that's where we especially focus on, we are the leading white label CSS provider. Somewhere between 15 and 20% of all the CSSs worldwide are basically run by us. We offer turnkey ready solutions with great support to help our partners get the most out of the Google CSS program. We have, let's say, 3-digit white label CSSs in our ecosystem, and some of our partners, obviously most are Google CSS providers, but some are also CSS partners or even CSS premium partners, right? And we serve shops, agencies, and some tool providers all over Europe, obviously with the focus in the DACH region since we are based in Germany. Yeah, that was it from me.
Awesome, Ingmar. Thanks a lot. So obviously you are in contact with over hundreds of online shops and agencies these days. So I'm very curious to hear your take on the current online marketing landscape in the e-commerce world.
Yeah, cool. Let's start it off. Basically, one of the main observations that I have is what I see is that the gap between winners and losers seem to widen. So what I mean with it, the last years for e-commerce have been kind of a bumpy ride. First, we have like the inflated numbers by Corona, where everything in e-commerce was soaring, everything looked really great, right? Then that came kind of down. But it not only came down to like a normal level, but in the same time, like a war started. The macro economy really suffered. We're talking about limited disposable income by people who shop less online. So I think these are tough times for the e-commerce industry, right? And tough times always show who's on top of his game and who's not. In the sunny days, like everybody's prospering. But when the shit hits the fan, you can really see who's owning his stuff and who's not. And what I see is that some struggle, right? Also clients we've been working with for years, while others really seem to soar. And that's what I mean when I say the gap between winners and losers seem to widen. And that's why I think that especially now in these tough times, it's especially important that you're really using the best tools, adaptive and innovative, that you come out on top.
Great. I definitely think that we all can agree that is definitely getting tougher and tougher being in the e-commerce space here. So, but what I'm really curious about but actually from your point of view, differentiates the winners and the losers.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, obviously I don't have like a crystal ball where I can see and peek into the minds or companies of our leads and customers. Yeah. But from the lasting relationships, and I'm doing sales at adstrong, so I have like hundreds of talks with leads and customers. What I would say some commonalities are that winners, let's say, have in common is one crucial skill is like really to filter the noise. There's so much going on. There's so many new tech and trends and what Google publishes and so on. It's easy to get overwhelmed. And it's crucial that you understand what's really important and what's not, and that you really focus on the stuff that's important, like filter the noise. And then secondly, the ones who are soaring, they're specializing. They're specializing to stand out. You can't do everything at once. For agencies, specialization obviously is on the service offering, right? And for online shops, it's with regards to what we do, it's with regards to the online marketing channels that they are serving. And the successful ones that we are working with, for instance, of the agencies, they're like, we are a Google shopping agency or Google ads agency for D2C e-commerce brands. Boom, that's what we are. And then the ones who are struggling are like small companies who offer everything, right? We run social media for you, we run performance marketing, SEO, Shopify, optimization, web shop hosting, whatever. And yeah, you can start out like this because maybe you have from your personal network, like 1-2 clients who need everything from you on a low level, but it's impossible to really then get a stake in the market and grow if you don't really specialize. And for the shops, it's similar. Like some smaller shops we're working with who don't succeed, they're doing everything at once. And the bigger ones or the more successful ones, they have their channels where they know that it works, and then they really excel at these channels, right? And then they make these channels really work, and that's where they grow. Obviously, if you're talking about bigger organizations, they can handle a lot more. Like one of our customers, Group M, which is, as far as I know, like the largest agency network in the world. Obviously, they have the organizational structure to run all marketing channels in parallel on a super niveau. But most agencies we are working with don't, right? So really put as much on your plate as your organization can handle, really specialize, and then I'm pretty sure that you will have an easier time to succeed. And the third thing, obviously, is adapt and innovate. Learn. Stay on top of what's happening, right? So congratulations to our listeners, basically, right? Because they are willing to learn. I'm a big proponent of constant and never-ending improvement, right? But it's not only to learn, but to put into action what you learn, implement it, and innovate.
Yeah, and talking about implementing, I'm quite curious, what do you see of kind of like patterns in your customer portfolio of how they actually work with your product? How do they put it into action, so to say, and actually gain these benefits here?
Yeah, I mean, so our product obviously is white label CSS, right? So we do everything that Google requires to make you a Google CSS provider. And there's a very clear difference on how winners and losers, to just call them like that, perceive the value that the CSS or that the Google CSS program can bring them. I mean, I guess almost everybody knows what CSS is, but just in a very small nutshell, right?
Yes, please do. Yeah.
Due to the specific legal situation in Europe, there's the CSS program. And basically, if you don't use the CSS, you lose about 20% of your Google Shopping ad spend. This 20% doesn't go to the Google Shopping ads directly to Google Search, but it goes to Google Shopping Europe, which is kind of a sister company, right? And if you do use a CSS, you don't lose this. So what you effectively get by using a CSS is an effective CPC boost, right? And this CPC boost is the core value of the CSS program. And that sums up the old understanding of how to use a CSS, right? Oh, how much do I spend? How much can the CSS CPC boost bring me? And the winners now understand that this is not enough anymore, right? We have a revised understanding. It's not about the CPC boost anymore. Since we are offering a white label CSS solution, we bring all the values to the table that the whole CSS program can offer, right? And being a CSS provider is really like a strategic growth hacking tool for Google Shopping ads, which will not only increase the performance of your ads, but it can really take the growth of your company, irrespectively whether you're a merchant or an agency, to the next level, right? And the losers, right? They're not like really losers, but let's just make the dissection here. They still believe it's only about the CPC boost, and they love to discuss and bicker if it's 20% that Google Shopping keeps, or 18% or 16%, right? And it's impossible to measure, but they get hung up on this part.
And small details,
and as a side note, I mean, just as a spoiler, nobody knows exactly how much it is. Ballpark figure 20% seems right. If there's any listener who's really interested in deep dive there, just reach out to me and I will give you my best download on how high the amount it really is. But since Google doesn't publish it exactly and you can measure it exactly, it's just exactly one of the parts of the noise where I say, hey, filter the noise, get to the important stuff. Don't get hung up on the wrong question, right? It's not about how high the CPC boost exactly is. It's on how many extra benefits you and your customers can get from the Google CSS program.
But talking about this, because I think there's like, thank you for explaining the CSS in general, and I think probably a high percentage know this kind of like click boost benefits. But what do you see, like, what are the other benefits of having your own CSS?
So obviously, if I say it's not enough to see the CPC benefit, you have to see there's more. So what is more, right? What is more? To explain like the full benefits that the white label CSS, let's say the strategic understanding that you have to have of the CSS program for your company and whether it can do something for you or not, I would like to just take a look at a Google Shopping ad, basically. So give me a second. I'm switching to the demonstration mode. So sorry, wrong slide. So this is the shopping ad. Let's take a closer look at it. So what's obviously striking is that the shopping ad obviously markets the product. That's how it should be, right? There's the big picture of the product, and there's the title and the price, and that's what people look at, right? And then below is like the shop name, and this is really not visible. It's a light gray. So under this is the CSS provider's name, and the CSS provider's name is much more visible than the shop name. It's a light blue Google highlighted link that people can much easier see. So if you think about how people perceive these shopping ads, it's obviously 80% is the product. And then they don't see the shop, because you see the shop only if you would read the shopping ad carefully from top to bottom, which nobody does. But what you see is then product by CSS, right? So the CSS provider gets the branding, and Google Shopping ads are unique in a way that they market two entities. They market the product and the CSS provider, not the shop. And that's important to understand. So depending on your ad spend, obviously, you have like, or let's say most of our customers have millions to billions of ad impressions every month, right? And the question is, who gets the branding, right? Do you put like a generic CSS on it where somebody else gets the branding? Or if you're an agency, it might even be a competitor's CSS because many agencies have their own CSS, or do you put your own brand there? But important to understand is that the CSS provider is much more visible than the shop. And that's the let's say the real estate we are talking about. And the second thing about the shopping ad, which is important to understand, is that clicks on the buy CSS link, on the text link at the bottom, they don't lead to the online shop, and they are for free. They lead to the CSS provider site. So as a CSS provider, you have your own price comparison site. So if we make you a CSS provider, we host your own branded white label price comparison site with your products, right? So the traffic on this link goes to the CSS site, and that's free extra traffic. And in performance marketing, obviously, it's important to get all the edges and to get all the steps right. So you have to make sure that you don't send the free traffic that your ads generate to some random site, but that you get it. And this is not just one random site. Obviously, there's good examples and bad examples on how to do this. And I'll first show like the normal example, which is a bad example. Basically, here is a Google Shopping ad, right? Just for search term aspirin. The shop is a Shop Apotheke, which is a German pharmacy, online pharmacy, and the CSS is adherence, right? And if I click on the buy adherence link at the bottom of the ad, I'm taken to this site. And as you can see, on this side, there are no products shown by Shop Apotheke. And that's the normal case. So I invite all of the listeners and viewers, take a look at your Google Shopping ads, right? Search for them. Don't use brand searches, but use like generic product keyword searches, right? And then click on the buy CSS link, and you'll be shocked to see that on these landing pages, almost no products of your shop shows up, but products of the competition show up, especially if you work with Google CSS, right? Or with bigger CSSs like Product Hero, Advertisers, Mac or Smarketer, whatever, right? And so you have to imagine this. You are running the ad, you're working the campaigns, right? You're paying for the ad. And then your ads generate traffic, extra free traffic, which is nice to have, that go to somebody else where there's even the products of the competition. And your ads carry the wrong logo, right? Basically the wrong CSS name. And that's the status quo. That's how most people do it. And you have to do it differently. And so how could it look like? How does it look with our solution? And how do the ones who are really thriving on the Google CSS program do it? So this is an example now of a shop CSS. So search term just Copenhagen boots. You see this ad by Fashionette. So Fashionette really makes sure that their brand sticks out. Everybody sees the brand. The other shop names you barely see. You can see it here. It's really not easy to see them, but Fashionette you really see. Right? Make this ad stick out. Get all the branding. And basically then if you click on the Buy Fashionette link, you're taken to the Fashionette site. And there's the products of Fashionette. So all the free traffic, Fashionette gets it, right? And if it's an agency setup, it's similar, right? Here's a search term Snox. There's an ad by Touchpoint, which is a German agency. If you click on the By Touchpoint link, you're taken to the Touchpoint price comparison site, or let's say the Touchpoint CSS site. And then there are the products of Touchpoint, right? And this free traffic and the branding are really the things that can give you an edge. And we have measured it as good as we can. And the free traffic is for agency, it's about 2 to 3% compared to the paid clicks. So you get 2 to 3% extra free traffic to your CSS site or to the product inventory of your clients. And for shops, it's more like 3 to 5% of extra free traffic that you get. And what has been especially interesting for me is when I did like customer interviews with online shops to see like how does this translate? What's the worth of this traffic? Because like 3% might not sound so much, right? But especially online shops who've got like low cost of goods sold, low COGS, and high marketing costs, it can have an impact of like more than 20% extra profit. Because what I learned, what I learned when talking to them is like I round the numbers to keep it easy, and I won't disclose like the details. But there's like this online shop he's got 20% COGS, like cost of goods sold, like purchasing his products that he's selling, right? And roughly 10% like overhead cost, a lean organization, and 60% marketing cost. That means that he's got like 10% profit margin. So or if he's like has 100,000 euros in revenues, 20,000 euros worth COGS, 10,000 euros overhead cost, and then 60,000 euro marketing cost, which means he's got 10,000 euros in profit left. And now if we give him this extra 3% traffic, generating 3,000 euros extra revenues, he only has to pay like the COGS and the overhead cost, which in this example are 30%. So it's like 900 euros. So that means like he's got these 3,000 euros in extra revenues, generate like 2,100 euros in extra profit, which is like 21%. So this can really get you a long way depending on your unit economics. Obviously, it might look totally different for other shops who have like very high COGS or lower marketing spend. But in performance marketing, it's not about this one thing that you do right, like this one big lever, oh, I've won it. No, it's about the many small steps that you have to take in the right direction. And these things are definitely things that can or will give you the edge, or that I see that our customers give me feedback that they say that really works well for them.
That's so interesting. So from what I hear you saying is that both the agency and actually the e-commerce businesses can view this one as a CSS basically being more like a strategic asset that not will only improve your ad performance, but it will actually also position you from a brand point of view and contribute to the growth.
Yeah, definitely. So that's what I mean. It's not like about the CPC benefit. Oh, is it 18% or 20? It's like really about getting more out of Google Shopping ads than your competition, and therefore winning, right? Yeah.
So thanks for sharing the examples, because I think many of at least our clients are not aware of the benefits here. So talking about like standing out and how you specialize and looking at the current market, how do you enable agencies and online shops to kind of like stand out?
Good question. I mean, initially I said I filter the noise, right? Specialize to stand out. I mean, specializing to stand out looks different for agencies and for shops, obviously. I mean, for agency, what we do is we give them a great product with a USP, which is the CSS they can offer to their clients, which is a nice first catch product, which is nice for customer retention. But it's the nice thing about is that CSS is a no-brainer because of the CPC boost that the clients get, but they don't get yet another CSS. There's so many CSS providers out there. They really get the CSS with a USP, and therefore like a real extra value they can offer their customers. What do I mean with the USP? Why is our white label CSS more than other CSSs? Basically, there's two reasons. One is the free clicks booster. I haven't mentioned this in detail, but basically when I was showing still on the screensaver, the landing page there, I will end now. I will end it now. But on the landing page, there were only the products of the merchants, right? And so this other CSSs don't have it. So please just check it, try it out. Usually you see all kinds of products there. So this is a feature we call the free clicks booster. And obviously getting this extra traffic on your product inventory is really nice. So this is an extra feature that the CSS, that the agency can offer to the customers has. But the second thing is that as a CSS provider, you're empowered by Google, right? So this status brings a lot of extra perks. You get direct Google CSS support. And then depending on your size as a CSS provider, so we have some customers who are premium CSS partners, they get massive support by Google. They get their own technical support dedicated. They get dedicated account management, like in the old days. So really like two people from technical department and from account management, you can talk to you and who are helping you out, right? So this is really something great. But there's also like the CSS support portal, where like Google offers all kinds of perks and services to CSS providers. For instance, you can manage negative keywords for PMAX on campaign level instead of account level. So there's all kind of extra perks, but also like extra data you get and so on. So I would say all this stuff can be put into great use for the campaign performance of the merchant, but it is only put to great use if somebody has access to this who actually uses this. And this is only the merchant himself or the agency. Because if you just go to random CSS provider, he doesn't care about this empowerment, and he doesn't care about the extra data, and he doesn't touch your campaigns. So an agency who is a CSS provider at the same time for its clients is empowered by Google to offer greater support and has a CSS with the extra USP of the free clicks booster, right? And that's what makes it a great product, I would say, and a no-brainer for most clients, and also a profitable tool, I would say, for the agency who refinances it. But the other thing about standing out, apart from having a great product, is obviously the branding on Google, right? So Google for you is more than just a marketing channel. Somehow it turns into real estate that generates passive income, right? By putting your brand out there. And this really, what I've gotten as feedback from our clients is like several things. First of all, this just enhances your credibility. Everybody can immediately see you're an expert with Google Shopping ads, right?
Yes.
So that's just great for trust. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And it also, the branding also drives inbound leads and helps you convert those leads into actual customers, because in the sales pitches, the feedback that I get from our customers is that in the sales pitches, they have an easier time closing because the leads have already seen their brand so many times before, right? And therefore trust them more than they would if this is just like they hearing the first time of them. So I think this really helps to stand out. And since for me as a performance marketing guy, it's really difficult to talk about branding or to think about the value of branding. And I want to, maybe it's similar for you since you're also only into numbers, right? But I have a nice story of the birth hour of the white label CSS program at adstrong, right? We started out as a CSS provider, just normal CSS in the very beginning, small company, just almost no customers, obviously in the very, very beginning, right? You start with your network of friends and so on. So one friend of mine, Orlando, here in Munich, he ran an online shop called Wacholder Express. So it's an online gin shop. Wacholder is like the German word for the main ingredient of gin. And they became a CSS partner. They were using our CSS, so shopping ads by adstrong, basically, right? And then we kept on receiving inbound leads by like alcohol shops, right? Gin shops, whiskey shops, like beverage shops, tonic shops, wine shops, and so on. And back then, CSS was a more expensive product and also a new product which you needed to explain. So I was having lots of talks with the people, and I thought, where do they come from, right? And it turns out that basically they saw the shopping ads by Wacholder Express with the by adstrong in it, and they saw, oh wow, that's showing up on the top results in Google. I also want to show up at the top results at Google, so let's reach out to adstrong, right? And this was, on one hand, it was great for us because we got lots of leads. And a couple of years ago, I think like 2 years ago, I make some analysis. And I see that we had like over 50 CSS customers who like wine shops or gin shops and so on. So, and it really comes down to this Wacholder Express seed that we had in the beginning. But on the other hand, it was also not kind of sad because we're not really able or equipped to help these leads. We are no agency, right? We can give them the CSS, but if they had shitty Google shopping ads before, they might perform a little bit better, but that's not the game changer. So I thought these inbound leads has to go to the agencies who can really help the customer or the lead to get what you wanted, basically show up on top of the Google Shopping ads. And that's when we said, hey, let's make a white label product so that these inbound leads really go to where they should be, at somebody who can serve them properly, right? So that was a long story. Sorry, sometimes I'm just talking about how do we help our agencies to stand out and to specialize, or specialize to stand out. And for online shops, I try to keep it shorter. So obviously, online shops get the branding, right? And that's big game changer, because the branding and putting the shop name in the shopping ad is much more important for the shop than for the agency, because not everybody who's looking for, I don't know, sneakers online has an online shop and is looking for an agency, right? But everybody's looking for sneakers, right? So 100% of your brand impression is in your target audience, right? And you finally have the chance to not only market some kind of product, but really market your shop. And even though it's probably impossible to quantify the euro value of this branding, I've had talks to branding experts in agency customers of ours, because I'm really curious, how can you quantify this? And obviously, probably you can't. I don't know. You could make a PhD thesis out of it. But as a ballpark figure, what I got as feedback is like, take your Google Shopping ad spend, all right, take like 3 to 5% of this, could be like the branding value of putting your shop name or your brand into the shopping ad. And as you know, there are shops who are spending lots and lots of money on Google Shopping ads, and they are just missing. They're just missing this. So it's not just great branding, but it really makes the ad stick out. And this is, so to speak, let's say the incremental step that you need to take to be successful also in the long term, where these branding then really kicks in, that you get nicer conversion rates because people have seen your brand more often or click more on your ads. And that's what we've measured. And we've done case studies with Intersport and DevShop about the CTR change. So we had merchant centers of Intersport and DevShop in the adstrong CSS. And we moved these merchant centers into an Intersport CSS and a DevShop CSS, so shopping ads by Intersport or shopping ads by DevShop. And what we've seen is that the CTR went up significantly. So in the dev shop example, the dev shop CSS generated roughly 5% in extra traffic, free traffic, as said before, and the CTR of the ads went up by 12%. And in Intersport, the free traffic was slightly lower. It was 3% free traffic that they generated, but the CTR of the shopping ads went up by more than 25%. And we had like a 4-year data baseline, right? So it was really like this biggest peak that we could ever see in the ad performance. And that means it's just more of the traffic that you want to buy to the price where you're willing to buy it. And I believe that the CTR change comes because the whole ad is perceived to be more relevant. Because if you have a shopping ad and you see our product, you just skim over them, right? You don't see them. But then at the bottom, there's just some irrelevant brand like, oh, it's adstrong. What has adstrong to do with sneakers? Nothing, right? And then there's Intersport or Dev Shop there. Then for you, consciously and subconsciously, the whole ad becomes more relevant and trustworthy because you have a higher belief that you will actually find what you're looking for, right?
Makes perfect
sense. But I also think, and we've also measured this for less known brands, right? So if you have just a general sneaker store, a general sneaker store, even if it's not Nike, right, is still more relevancy with regards to search terms that will show up the ads than a generic CSS name. And that's why I believe the CTR goes up for many of our shop customers, right?
So
measurable. And so this is basically what then sums it up. Like really, if you see the CTR change, you can really see that's the impact of my shopping ad sticking out. And so if you specialize on shopping ads, then this will help your shop. A white label CSS will basically help your shop stick out, right, and your brand.
Great explanation of how you maximize the value of that precious real estate that you have in your Google Ads shopping ad, right? So basically, it's a white label CSS, which is plug and play for both e-commerce stores and agencies, which will essentially upgrade your Google Ads performance and turn it into a strategic ad system that will act as you could say like a growth accelerator, both for you being the agency or the e-commerce merchant with all these benefits.
Yeah, and I mean, if from the webinar to sum it up, if what I think could be a valuable takeaway value for the listeners or for you viewers is really like, that's how you have to think about the CSS. Don't think about the CPC boost, 16, 20, 18%, but think about how it can really do so much more for your company and how you can use it as a strategic asset, right? It's plug and play. There's no big work to do. Yeah, exactly.
I think it's a game changer for many listeners.
Yeah, it can be, definitely.
Yeah. So talk about this kind of like innovative approach and the way the users adapt this. So staying ahead of the curve, how do you see innovation and adapting this technology going forward in your space?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at the time. I will just be more brief. But like the third part, when I said, I also said like be innovative, be adaptive, like move forward. I have lots of calls with leads, as I told you, and I would say roughly 1 year ago, I talked to 2 leads, similar German agencies, right? And both performance marketing guys I had in the talk, and they were really interested or kind of hung up in how high is the CPC boost, right? And that's like really the bad example. One guy who says, hey, I'm a performance marketing guy. I only trust what I can measure, and I can only sell to my customers what I can really measure. And I don't know how high the CPC boost is. So what he decided to do is really, he's not good in filtering the noise, right? So he says, okay, now he moved some merchant centers to the adstrong CSS, and he tries to quantify the CPC boost impact, right? And that's in terms of PMAX is really difficult. While the other guy, and about innovative and adaptive, also has the same questions and understood the strategic value, and he just said, okay. And that's also something that I learned with the CSS program. I'm also a performance marketing guy. It's not about like, sometimes it's about measuring everything, but sometimes you also have to admit that some things you just can't measure. They are in the Google black box somewhere. And then it's deciding, okay, is it worth to take on the risk to just implement it and see what happens? And so this guy onboarded straight away. And I know for a fact that he already got like billions of free brand impressions and several inbound leads for his agency. While the other one is still like measuring. And that's like just a short story regarding being innovative and adapting. So if you learn something that you can put into practice, be very pragmatic about how you can 80-20 it, how you can be quick about it. If it doesn't work, just roll back, cancel, quit, whatever, and keep the stuff that works. And the most innovative stuff that I see among our clients, I would say that agencies, I mean, cutting edge agencies, what they are doing is they have their agency CSS, obviously, but they're taking the big customers and putting them into their own branded CSSs, right? So you take your big customer who has a nice big spend, and instead of serving him by the agency CSS, you serve him with his own branded CSS, because then that's the maximum optimum setup that you can get to the customer, right? For the smaller customers, it doesn't make sense, but for the big ones, it definitely does. And there's some agencies are adapting the strategy, and I would say that's like the state-of-the-art CSS usage for agencies. And for online shops, what I see sometimes is that there's very sophisticated Google shopping departments in the online shop who are like running multi-CSS strategies, so several merchant centers via several CSSs who are marketing the same shop. And instead of using several external CSSs, they have several branded white label CSSs. So you can have two CSSs with exactly the same brand name, or you can use different brand names, but then you can really maximize the multi-CSS strategy if it makes sense for your organization, while also maximizing like the branding. And that's really like, I would say, without talking longer about the CSS, but that's really how innovative I think you can be. Maybe there's viewers who have even better ideas, right, and have a greater secrets and edges. But from what I see is these guys that are doing this, that are just basically implementing what I've talked about, they are the ones that are really growing on Google Shopping Ads, not only in performance, but in general. But I would now stop there, right? I could talk about this for hours, right? Maybe you have
I think it's game changers for many listeners here. Yeah, so awesome. Thank you for explaining that one.
Yeah, I mean, very happy to share, right? But I'm also very curious, obviously, as you being my guest, to find out of you and Reaktion. I mean, I know that you're in daily contact with a lot of agencies and e-commerce companies, right? And to start at the beginning, what do you see as their biggest challenges as of today?
Well, just like you said at the beginning, that the golden Corona days are definitely gone. We do see an increased focus on profitability, meaning that the cooperation between the e-commerce merchant and the agency need to be aligned. So focusing on the bottom line, the profitability of all the activities they are implementing. And that's definitely provides or facilitates a need for having access to these real-time data, and also creating a collaborative platform. So basically aligning the e-commerce business and the agency to make sure they are on the same page. That is one observation, that need to focus on the bottom line, the profitability, providing a single source of truth so they are aligned. A different, but is partly related, is also that we do see that server-side tracking is definitely on the radar for many agencies and e-commerce merchants. I would say now that if you're not facilitating server-side tracking, you're definitely missing out. So from a technical point of view, it's like feeling we have, all these challenges that have been introduced with the iOS 14, now iOS 17 removing the click IDs, and now we have the consent mode coming up, and the ad blockers, etc. So all these initiatives are definitely has made it a necessary evil, so to say, to initiate server-side tracking in order to get the maximum data inside the algorithm. We see a trend towards that. Many agencies and e-commerce merchants are letting the algorithm do the work, and in order to letting the algorithm do the work, they need the best data foundation. So that is something that is very much on the radar, that we see that some people challenge us with. Is it actually complex to set up? And is it so if you're not doing server-side tracking, now is definitely time to sharpen your knife and get it activated, because otherwise your competitors are stealing and feeding the algorithm with these valuable signals. And we do also see like an increased amount of questions towards compliancy. So for good reasons, there's a lot of focus on compliancy in this marketing world. So we have the upcoming Google consent mode V2. So you actually have to be compliant with one of the certified CMP platforms. So that is all these initiatives that you need to take account. So you have you want to maximize the signals to and thereby the performance of your campaigns while staying compliant. So navigating in this space is something that we are getting, I wouldn't say bombarded with every day, but it's definitely on the agenda for many e-commerce businesses and agencies nowadays that want to maximize the signals to the algorithm while staying compliant, because there's a lot of focus on this day.
Okay. Yeah. Makes total sense. And when we come back to like the winners and losers, what's your take on what differentiates, like from your perspective, what differentiates the ones who are doing it right, who are getting it right, who are like implementing best practice, and the ones who are missing out here in 2024?
Yeah, great question. So definitely that they are focused on the profitability, so they can actually scale while being profitable. Also see that they kind of like need this single source of truth, because if you only look at platform numbers from the agency, which are reporting by Meta or Google themselves, so there's no like attribution layer, there's no like customer journey layer, etc. So simply taking the numbers directly from Google Ads or Meta Ads is not providing a holistic view of the business. So you definitely need this single source of truth coming from a third party, so they get access to the right data in real time. So we also see that there's a tendency that the e-commerce businesses definitely need to know their unit economics. And what do I mean by that? I mean, having a clear overview of all the costs, all the shipping fees, all the payment fees, all these huge variable costs are so significant for your campaigns being profitable or not. So, and one thing is having access to kind of like these numbers on a screen. So it's kind of like viewing it as a dashboard. That is fine. That is very outdated in my opinion. You need to put these numbers into action. So one thing is having the clear overview from a top point of view, but you also need to deep dive and put this data into use. So as an example, I can show you, if we can jump to slide 23. So then you can see, okay, we're having the numbers in real time, aligning the e-commerce merchants and the agencies on the same page, so they can actually see which of the stores are actually generating the highest revenue, which are underperforming, how many new customers are coming in, which products are actually driving the profit. I also do see a gap between the agency understanding the business of the e-commerce operation. So we also do insights on which products are actually driving the profit for the e-commerce merchant. So getting all this data inside one platform and making it a collaborative platform where the users, being an e-commerce user or an agency user, having access to the same data in real time. It's a necessary evil. And very easy to implement, but not many people have access to this in real time. And that is kind of like the reporting part of it. That is the foundation. But talking about putting this into numbers, then you can jump to the next slide here, 24.
Here we go.
So this is an example which I know many Danes are familiar with, probably a few listeners today, but it's quite unique for many when you're going outside the borders of Denmark. So what you actually can do is that you can let the algorithm optimize for profit and not just revenue. So normally when you start optimizing a campaign, you will select maybe purchase or transaction as your primary event, knowing that it will maximize the revenue. But what we see, coming back to which challenges I see here in 2024, is that they need to focus on the profitability. So Reaktion actually calculates the profit of each order. So we synchronize all the product cost, the shipping fees, the payment fees, the pick and packaging, and calculating the exact profit of each order and sending this back to the algorithm. So that would enable both you as an e-commerce store or being an agency to select Reaktion profit as the main optimization target event. So you can actually facilitate profit optimization for your campaigns. So you're feeding profit values into the conversion API instead of just revenue data. So if you have like a product catalog with different product margins, it doesn't make sense if you're only selling a white T-shirt in extra large, right?
Yeah.
But if you're selling like handmade bags and do sell T-shirts, then the profit margins might be different, right? So sending these signals enriched with these values of profits enables you to say, dear algorithm, please let me optimize for profit instead of just maximizing the revenue, because the value of these orders coming in is not actually paying my salary. It's the profit that pays my salary. So that is one basic foundation of that. Numbers on the screen is fine, but you need to put these into action and kind of like bridging the gap between the agency and the e-commerce merchant. So that is one thing I see, that put these into action.
So basically, I mean, so it seems like the winners who are the ones who have really access to all their data in real time. Or let's put it the other way around. If you have like access to all your data in real time, and you're also able to really actively implement this in your marketing campaigns, then this really helps you be among the winners or succeed, right? Because both agencies and e-commerce operators are better able to navigate these like constantly changing times in the e-commerce marketing landscape. And you're offering a collaborative platform for agencies and merchants to basically to do that, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
I mean, for me, it sounds like a no-brainer, right? When you're telling this, but also, since I'm not a tracking expert, it sounds rather complex, to be honest, or it could be complex. Or let's say, is it complex? Like, what are the initial steps an agency or e-commerce merchant needs to take to start focusing on profitability?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I do agree that it might sound complex, but we have actually been developing our server-side tracking solution with ex-Meta Ads employees. So we got it from the source itself.
Nice.
So we've been building this platform for 3 years, our tracking platform, and our official tech partners with Meta and Google. So if you can kind of like show slide 25, then I can quickly explain how it works. So we are a plug and play tracking solution. What does that mean? That means that we have a one-click operation and integration to Shopify, WooCommerce, Magento, Shopware, all these platforms. So we will actually enrich the order data and send that to the conversion API automatically. So without going into details, feel free to reach out to me and I will definitely explain how it works under the hood. But in essence, it is that what you can't track client side due to all these privacies, ad blockers, initiatives, we can facilitate that in a compliant way where we send this user key data and we enrich it with this profit data. So one thing is like, I have server-side tracking. That is kind of like, yes, but which kind of server-side tracking do we have? Because the one that comes out of the box from Shopify and Meta Ads, as an example, in our more than 1,000 Shopify stores, we have an average of 37% more tracked orders. That means you will get 37% more tracked sales inside your Meta or your Google Ads campaigns. So if you don't utilize that one, so one thing is having like a server-side tracking, which is there's many providers out there. One thing is having like, just like you, one state of the art that actually can identify the amount of new customer, take into account returns, actually optimize for profit. So server-side tracking is not just server-side tracking, and we do have spend quite a lot of time of doing it as a plug-and-play solution for these standardized platforms. So that is definitely one thing that you need to kind of like enrich it with the profit value, take returns into account, identify what is coming from new customer revenue, and start optimizing based on all these parameters here. So and then again we have like I know some of our clients watching know this, but small teaser, if you can jump to like slide 26. What we're gonna do now, talking about putting your data into action and not just showing them on a screen. Start March, we will launch our dynamic XML data feed generator. So imagine this. So we know the profitability of all your products in your data feed. So we know if it has a profit on ad spend above a certain amount. So you can actually create, they have like custom labels you can enrich your data feed with 5 ones. So you can actually create your own custom label inside Reaktion, and then we will feed this dynamically to and update your data feeds. So imagine this. you can create like a custom label being product winners. And what is that? Those are the ones that you have in stock, very basic, but we can also identify, are your price points actually competitive? And then you can also say, am I actually making money out of these products, promoting them on Google Ads? So that's the POAS, meaning profit on ad spend, and not just return on ad spend.
Exactly.
So thereby you can actually create a custom label which people feed directly into the merchant center. And then you can say, okay, and if you jump to the next one, yes, then you can identify these products. Okay, these shoes are actually having a higher POAS than 3.5. We do have them in stock and our price level is competitive. Thereby you can actually allocate budget to these products and optimize performance based on this. So that's a small teaser for our upcoming data feed generator in Reaktion. Yeah. So that's great. Yeah.
I mean, really awesome. And Jonas, to be honest, that's also why I'm really happy that you joined in the webinar as my guest, because I mean, you don't only, like, Reaktion doesn't only track more orders with like server-side tracking. It's really like server-side tracking taken to the next level because you put lots of like intelligence and smartness and brains into your solution, and it's like
I'm getting ready.
Really enrich. You really enrich the server-side tracking with like profit values for all orders, and so that basically enables agencies and e-commerce merchants to get like profit insights on channel level, on campaign, on ad level, on keyword level, or even on product level, right? And with your upcoming data feed product for Google Shopping Ads, I think, as somebody coming from Google Shopping Ads, that really sounds quite interesting. I mean,
great.
Yeah, really nice.
Thanks a lot. And I do see the time is running out. And
but one last thing that I think I'm interested in. Since I'm interested, I hope that also some of the viewers are interested. Compliance, right? You also mentioned that there's a big increased focus on compliance, and I know that this topic is on at least some people's minds, right? And we are now happy to have you as an expert. So what's the story about this in the context of tracking?
Yeah, let me put it very briefly that we do have data centers in Frankfurt and in Stockholm. So from a GDPR point of view, we are compliant there. And we do also already facilitate a solution with our server-side tracking for the Google Ads consent node coming up. So check mark on the compliance. We are official tech partners with these guys and have data centers in the EU, etc. Yeah. So
okay, that's nice to know, because I mean you're obviously plug and play ready, suitable for business in the EU. But I also know that some of your competitors who do serve customers in the EU don't have data centers here, right? And I think that these customers have to think about whether they need to change it. Okay, but looking at the time, thanks first of all, Jonas.
Likewise.
I mean, let's say this concludes now our fireside chat part. Let's really move on to the questions and answers. Like, please post any questions or comments you might have on LinkedIn. And I already see that there have been some questions, so I will tackle them top to bottom. So, question to Ingmar from Jens. Can every e-commerce store create their own white label CSS price comparison site? So short answer is yes, every e-commerce in Europe, in the European Economic Area, including the UK and Switzerland, every e-commerce player can become a Google CSS provider. And with our CSS solution, basically, you don't have to create your own price comparison site. We do that for you, plug and play ready, and 100% Google policy compliant. So we work very tightly with Google, as you can imagine, as being like the provider who manages the most CSS in the world. We have a quite close connection to them, and we are 100% Google policy compliant. So we set this up for you on your branding, on your domain, and there are no like exclusions. And also the same from Jens, your second question regarding if we have some examples. Yes, obviously we have many examples, right? I wouldn't share them now on the webinar due to obvious reasons, but I will make sure to send them to you on LinkedIn so that you can take a look at. And anybody else who's interested in white label CSS examples of agencies or of merchants, just send me a direct message on LinkedIn, or you will see my email address later. Just send me an email. Then there is one question to Jonas. How can you compare the prices? Do you track competitors?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Jan. So for now, we get it as an endpoint in the API from Google. So they have some three labels of you can be like competitive, neutral, or not competitive. But of course, we know there are also multiple other data sources that you can enrich it with. It could be price runner, it could be all these price aggregators, and so for now we have it directly from the API in Google, providing a simple status being competitive, neutral, or not competitive. But of course, you can enrich that over time, and we do have a plan for that one. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Jonas.
Yeah.
One more question from Beatrix to Ingmar about winners and losers. This is a bit harsh, I think. What are some key takeaways from your side to get from the losing side to the winning side, staying in your analogy? Yes, sorry for speaking so bluntly about winners and losers. As I said before, that's not how I think about the operators in the online marketing. There's million shades in between, right? But as to your question, basically, I would still boil it down to what I've said before. Like, can you basically generally be better on Google Shopping Ads? How can you have more success? And what I've seen as working trends is like really filter the noise, focus on what's really important. And then in the CSS environment, it's to understand it's not about the CPC boost anymore. It's about understanding everybody can become a Google CSS provider without any work, without any IT, without any competency. And then you unlock this massive vault of extra benefits that Google will pour upon you, which is like this extra free traffic, the extra support, the empowerment, potential CTR benefits, right? And the massive branding and everything that comes along with it, right? And that's basically the proper understanding. And this will help you to stand out on Google Shopping Ads. So it will help you with your positioning and with your specialization, right? Irrespectively whether you're a shop or whether you're an agency. And that's, I mean, you have to be very pragmatic about it, right? Adaptive and innovative. Try it out, make it work, and focus on what your core business is otherwise, right? I hope that helps.
Great.
Okay, then one more question to you, Jonas. You talked about a huge 30% plus improvement in tracking. Is this only because of server-side implementation? And what improvements have you seen in possible conversion rate, CAC, so customer acquisition cost, CPO, due to the ad algorithms now being trained on profit rather than on revenue?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. Yeah. So as we talked about in this live event, feeding the algorithm with the right data and the maximum signal value while being compliant is essential nowadays. So yeah, of course, when you feed the algorithm with profit data, you will see a lower CAC, and because you will feed more data into the machine, you will feed it with profit values. Thereby, the algorithm will identify your highest performing customers from a profit point of view, which of course will lower your CAC, improve your conversion rate, etc. So yes, you're absolutely right. Training the algorithm with profit data will also improve your customer acquisition cost, your average profit per order, etc. So that's a good question. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Jonas. Yeah. We don't have any more questions, but we have like 1 or 2 minutes left. So I just want to talk about an important upcoming change to the Google CSS program. In December, I was invited here in Munich to the Google offices, and I had the privilege to talk to the global director of the Google CSS program, so the highest guy there is at Google for CSS, about some upcoming changes. And it's just important to understand the CSS program is a huge success within Google, right? The CSS program, and it will be like rolled. It will become even bigger. So there are already tests, and maybe you have seen them on Google. But CSS providers will be included in the SERPs, so in the organic results, right? And CSS providers will be empowered to run Google Shopping ads for themselves. So not only for an online shop, but CSS providers will be able to run Google Shopping ads for their own CSS sites. So there will be more and more inclusions, and these are like extra perks and benefits, or like the organic traffic is free extra traffic that CSS providers are getting, and this will be rolled out more and more in 2024. There are even more plans going in the same direction where CSS providers are empowered even further. So I think this is some extra reasons why you should get on the CSS train with your own CSS instead of like using one of somebody else and strengthening him. But now it's 12:29, so I would say we're running out of time. If you still have any questions, right, or that haven't been answered, just reach out to me or to Jonas by email or direct message on LinkedIn, and we will make sure to get your question answered. Apart from this, thank you for watching. It was a pleasure having you. Thank you, Jonas, for being my guest today. Yeah, I mean, we hope you were able to take massive value out of today's session, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in our next webinar. And as a thank you, as said before, I just want to offer you, and I want to encourage you, if you have any more questions about anything you've heard today, questions that might be more complex or more confidential to related topics that you would like to discuss, just reach out to Jonas and me via email or via LinkedIn, so we can jump on a call with you, because we can talk about this stuff all day, any day. So that was it today from us. We wish you an incredible and successful 2024. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye.